My story matters for you. My work matters for you. And I think any good people, and here's the key, I believe most of us are. And a lot of us are being influenced in negative ways. And so if you're a good person, and I trust that you are, most of you, then I want you to hear this story, and I want you to hear the underpinnings and the implications, because they matter for society. I've got a 30-year story, okay? It goes back even further. Let's call it 30 years. And we have to understand psychopathic energy in society. Yes, narcissism is one thing, and we're familiar with that. And even going beyond that is psychopathy. And the reason I say that is narcissism can be awful. And to me, at times, narcissism is more like a drip, drip, drip type of attack on you, which can be awful and, unto itself. And psychopathy is more emotionally violent. What I say with a psychopath is they will steal your heart, and they will close discussion. So they will create a situation where you never even are part of the discussion. You never get a word in. It's that vicious. It's that cut and dry. And I was confronted with situations like that over the past 30 years. Now, I'm not going to say it's any one person, because sometimes, there could be one or two, but basically, group energy forms out of, when one or two people say, I'm going to be reckless, I'm going to go after this person, and people join in. And that's why, I get to, this is the psychology, this is a piece of the psychology of our times. The people are just following kind of reckless energy and not understanding that there are a few people at the core who can be vicious, who can really go, emotionally for another person's throat. And that's what my life, and so that's what my life and work's about. And so this came about for me, as I say, like those with psychopathy will seek to, one of the key tools is they work to falsely define someone. So they could take a minor flaw in a person and just go for it. And one of the challenging things is we're not accustomed to people just going for a small thing and just boring in like a drill and feeling like they could rip your heart out with it. And so one of the things is that we don't anticipate psychopathy. We don't anticipate the degree of the attack on another human being. So even if you have a minor flaw or things you want to improve, they can take that and just go right for it. So that's something that kind of goes against the grain of common sense. And it occurred in my life going back, well, it really began like about 38 years ago, but it went back a long way, where people kind of started boring in at perceived faults in me. And from a factual basis, those things were dismissed like within a 24 hours. There's nothing to it. I was young, I was getting elected to the Cambridge City Council. I had a lot to learn about the world. Don't get me wrong. Maturing is different and growing up is different from being a bad person. We're all entitled to grow up. In fact, we should be encouraged and applauded for growing up. And that's kind of an essence of my life. But what happened is that, a group of people, so, one or two people especially, really wanted to define me in a negative way. And they were like very far away from me. They didn't need to, my brother, and, they didn't need to do this. But psychologically, they had a need to do it, even though they lived 3,000 miles away. My brother and his wife, for instance. But I don't want to get into great personality parts of it, but they lived far. My life really didn't have an overlap with theirs in any negative way, but they emotionally had a need to come at me and try to define me in a very negative way. And again, one of the things with, emotionally abusive attacks, you could call them psychopathic, extreme narcissistic, is the irrationality and kind of the, surprise, the sabotage nature. They'll come out of the woodwork. It's not something that rational people anticipate. And so when people come at you in that way, a couple things happen for me, two or three. And one is that, you have to make, I put my foot in the ground to define myself and to not allow my life to be defined falsely to defined unfairly. And those became defining issues. And the storm was so intense against me that I had to keep working over the course of 30 years. I chose to keep working over, it affected family, finances, children, all kinds of things. So I put the stake in the ground, and now I say my work has become an art and a science, in terms of understanding the psychology of our times and understanding how society has to push back and understand this extreme narcissistic, psychopathic, borderline type of behavior that essentially goes to steal your throat. And what was the old on the Grateful Dead line? Steal your throat. But anyway, it will seize the rationality in society, and we're not attuned to this psychology yet. We have to understand, which is why I've created these antidotes in the way of purpose, gentle genius coaching, the fairness revolution, the magic of the third way. All of these are out, all of these became outgrowths, like a tree blossoming out of my saying, I'm going to stand in there and take it on. And when I say it's a battle for humanity, surely I see my work as kind of influencing, if not changing, the psychology of our times. That we can't take goodness for granted. We can't take purpose for granted. We've got to dig in, which is why I do the training and advocacy that I do. And really, developing understandings is something called the tort, for the intentional infliction of emotional distress, which is about understanding emotionally abusive, psychologically attacking behaviors, because society's out of its grasp at this point with this. And unless and until we understand these types of behaviors, we're not going to get on that, because most of us are good, we're not going to get on that playing field where society becomes even, we even go on an upswing, because to me, the whole challenge is a psychology. So you can take all my work over the last 30 years and say it's a battle for humanity. And to switch our psychology, when I talk about the magic of the third way, helping people to become assertive, not aggressive, not passive. And really what I'm pinpointing to is to understand, call it psychopathy, narcissism, to understand the psychological challenges of our times and say we can't, rest in luxury. We've got to rise to the level of finding our goodness, forging it into purpose, and communicating it appropriately and assertively. That's the work I do. You can take a look at our websites, Gentle Genius Coaching, the Fairness Revolution, Restoring Our Humanity. That's what my life's work is about. And, it's been obscure in a way. I've been in the trenches for 30 years, taking on these issues toe to toe with respect that the challenges are psychological.